going to discuss on the sacrifice. When it comes to the word sacrifice, many people truly don't understand the importance of sacrificing, whether it's sacrificing for themselves or sacrificing for others. But before we get into all of that, whenever I discuss on a word, and quite frankly, if someone were to ask me, hey Ryan, how would you define sacrifice? Or better yet, what is the definition of sacrifice? If I find myself not having the answer, then what I do? I research it. Now here's the funny thing. When I researched the word sacrifice, the common denominator between every source, from 1828 Webster to Merriam-Webster 1828 to Google, the word sacrifice is linked to an individual killing an animal or person in ritual to God. But that's not the sacrifice I'm talking about. No. And some people may get confused based on the definition, because if you look into Proverbs chapter 21 verse 3, it reads, to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Now, one may look at that and say, oh, there you go. Righteousness and justice is more acceptable than sacrifice. So we don't need a sacrifice. No. Calm down. That's not what it means. Okay? We're not talking about killing an animal, slewing the head of a goat, and say, here you go, God, now bless me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And that's straight up foolishness, in my opinion. I'm talking about when an individual gives up something they like or love for the betterment of themselves, but others. And we learn, well, at least I learned, that that's what God desires. That's pleasing to God. And if we go to Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16, from the King James Version, it reads, but to do good and to communicate forget not, for with such sacrifices God is well pleased. And then if you go in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 through 2, I'm reading from the New King James Version, it reads, therefore be intimidators of God as dear children. Now, that scripture more so for the born again believer. And walk in love, as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. Now, what are those two scriptures stating? Okay? It's stating that, first off, since Jesus sacrificed himself while he was in the earth, we ought to do the same. Now, I'm not saying go nail yourself on a cross. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when Jesus was in the earth, he has so much humility the fact that he was half God, half man, that he could have told people, oh, you people are ignorant, you people are dumb, I am God. He didn't do that. He walked in love. And you see, when it comes to sacrificing, you have to have the understanding of love to be willing to truly sacrifice for not only people, but yourself. I'll give you an example. At my last job, the wireless company, I realized at a certain point what I was getting myself into. And as I said, I'll explain the whole story one day. But I knew while I was there, I was going to have to sacrifice a lot of things. And one of the things I would need to sacrifice is my personality, from the standpoint that usually if someone is talking bad about me, I would tell them off. I would straight up tell them off. And that doesn't mean I curse them out, because I don't curse at people, unless you want to count damn as a curse word. I've learned at that point, I need to sacrifice that. There will be many moments I wouldn't be happy. And again, happiness is an emotion. But I knew that sacrificing those things, I would get two things. I will be helping out the people that work there. And number two, I would have validated something within myself. Now, I know probably for most of you, if not all of you, that doesn't make any sense now. Well, as I said, in the future, I will explain everything in full. But for anyone who has worked with me in that place that's listening right now, you understand. Hopefully. Another example. When I decided to work at Petco, I worked as a security officer prior. I was making $12 an hour. Good money for me at that time, at least for being in college. I had the opportunity to make $17 an hour working as a security officer. But I made the decision through the Holy Ghost that it would be best to work at Petco. Where I first started, I was only making $11.10 an hour. Or just $11 per hour. And the reason why I sacrificed money in that regard is because I was in pursuit of a business degree at the time, and through the grace of God, I was able to achieve that goal in May of 2020. So I knew I needed to work in a place of retail, because I knew that in the near future that would be my place of work. And having that experience, it will look good on my resume. And that's what I told people when they asked me, why did you choose to work at Petco? It wasn't because I liked animals, even though I do like animals. literally the entire time I worked at Petco, I was the only person that didn't have a pet of their own. The only one. Every single colleague of mine had a pet that they called their own at some point. I mean, my mom, she had a parrot, an African gray named Nico, but I never considered Nico my own. That was my mom's. And obviously, I'm not going to count goldfish that I had when I was in elementary school. But I made that decision for experience, because I knew having that experience will be beneficial to my career early on until I officially make it, I don't even want to use the word big, but become successful in the ventures that I'm doing right now. And as we speak, I'm working in the retail industry, so I made the right decision in my opinion. But when it comes to sacrificing, people sometimes would tend to sacrifice the wrong things in life. For example, I knew a bunch of people who are sacrificing the health because it costs too much money. But see, that's the wrong type of sacrificing. When you're buying healthy foods, organic foods, that's not sacrificing. I mean, financially, you could look at it as you're sacrificing more money to get the organic stuff where you could get the cheap stuff from Walmart. Not a shot at Walmart people, that's just the first story that came to my mind. But I look at that as an investment. You see? And when you are investing in your health, just for example, you either expect it to fail or to have an ROI. In business, that means return on investment. And how do you make sure you have a return on investment? Well, you got a plan. You got to have a guideline of how you want to achieve whatever revenue or whatever profit you want to achieve by planning. But this is not a business class. Going back to sacrifice, what I learned growing up, and I'm still growing up at 23, I once heard the saying, if you want to achieve something you never achieved before, you got to do something that you've never done before. Period. And that's when sacrificing comes in. And I've seen it too many times where because of money, because of a certain situation, people are sacrificing the wrong things in life. Sacrificing their character, sacrificing their reputation, and sacrificing their integrity. You don't want to sacrifice those things. You want to sacrifice things that not only you're getting a return on, but also that individual is getting a return on. Return on meaning return on investment, going back to business. That's what true sacrifice is. And when people sacrifice for the betterment of others, that's the best sacrifice that you can give. That is the ultimate form of caring. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I genuinely believe that if you don't understand what love is, I'm not talking about boyfriend, girlfriend love. I'm talking about love from a human being point of view. One will not truly understand the importance of sacrifice. But from a regular human point of view, just sacrificing in some way, shape, or form is the ultimate form of caring and an ultimate form of unselfishness. Because there are going to be moments in your life that you're going to need to give up a certain thing to get what you want. And everyone who is successful in this world had to sacrifice something in some way, shape, or form. You're not going to be successful, whether that's financially or personally, from an integrity point of view, if you didn't sacrifice something. Again, at my last job, I sacrificed my happiness. Because there was a long point at that job where I wasn't happy. I had joy. I was grateful. I had peace. But I was not happy. There be days where there were just not a good day. But I knew sacrificing that happiness for a period of time, I was going to get the return on investment. Not only for myself, but for certain people that I work with. And that, you can't buy that. You can't purchase it. No, same thing. That's something that through life experiences, you're gonna get an opportunity to sacrifice. And whether you want to sacrifice or not, it's entirely up to you. So my admonishment to all of you today is, look at your life. Look at the path you're on right now. Know what you want to achieve. What are your desires? And then ask yourself this question. What am I willing to sacrifice to achieve these desires, these goals? What am I willing to do? Because at the end of the day, you can have all of these answers on what you want to sacrifice, but if you're not willing to put those sacrifices into actions, they're just thoughts. And they're going to stay thoughts until you put it to work. Are you willing to sacrifice? And obviously, again, I'm gonna say it. I'm not talking about some damn animal. I'm talking about. I remember when I was at Petco. I had a colleague who was a great Well, I don't want to say great. He was a very good artist. And we had a conversation one time where he mentioned that I believe he wanted some device where he can take his artistic skills to another level. And I asked him, okay, do you have a console, a game console? And he said yes. And I asked him the question, would you be willing to sell your console to get that device for your drawing? And from what I remember, he didn't answer the question, which told me he wasn't willing to do it. Now, did he eventually get the device? I don't know. But I know at the time he didn't. And this dude had a cat as a pet as well. I don't think I brought up the cat as an option, but that's another thing. Like, what are you willing to do to achieve what you want to achieve? The things that you want to sacrifice, the things that you need to sacrifice, you ain't gonna want to sacrifice. Like in his case, I won't say his name. I completely understand when someone doesn't want to sacrifice their their game consoles, their pet, because they in a way invested their time and their energy into those things. That pet, that game console. So, because in the back of their mind, they feel that they did all that work for nothing. But that's true sacrifice. A car. Hey, sometimes you might need to go as far as selling a car. Like if I sell my car right now, my Honda Accord, I put time into that thing. Brakes, oil change, filters, and things of that nature. And that would be tough. Because I put my hard work into that vehicle. But then you realize, hey, it's just a car at the end of the day. I can get another car. That game console, it's just a console at the end of the day. If I really want one that bad, I'll go out and buy another one. That pet, that cat, just a cat at the end of the day. If I really wanted another cat at some point in the future, I'll go and get another cat. What people need to realize that for many of the sacrifices that one will need to make at some point in their life, they're materialistic things. And in regards to animals, there are multiple cats, there are multiple dogs, there's multiple bearded dragons, there are multiple parrots. Now, obviously, one cat dog will be familiar to you compared to the other because it's a living creature. But still, you can get another dog, you can get another cat. But those will be the moments where you would need to sacrifice. So as I mentioned earlier, ask yourself this question. First, what are your desires? What are my desires in life? What do I want to achieve in life? And ask this last question. What am I willing to sacrifice to achieve those desires? And that's all I got to say. So, I thank all of you for listening. I hope that all of you got something from this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, give a 5-star rating, drop a comment, good review, bad review. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your colleagues. Spread the word about this show. I would truly appreciate it. All I ask is for an opportunity to show you how beneficial the show can be to one's life. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Salute to Rye. You can follow the podcast only on Instagram at All In All Out Podcast. And with that being said, stay blessed.